You're 24. You just landed your first real job. $58,000 a year, benefits, the whole thing. You feel like you finally made it. So you do what everyone around you is doing. You lease a car, you get a nice apartment, you buy clothes that look like you belong in meetings. You say yes to every dinner, every trip, every experience, because this is supposed to be the time. You're young, you're finally earning, and you're completely broke by the time you're 30. Not dramatically broke, just quietly, perpetually stretched. No savings, no investments, a retirement account you opened, and then ignored. And here's what nobody tells you while it's happening. The decisions you make between 22 and 32 don't just shape the next decade. They mathematically determine the rest of your financial life. That's not a metaphor. It's arithmetic. Fidelity Investments analyzed the retirement accounts of over 20 million Americans and found something that should genuinely disturb anyone in their 20s. People who start investing at 25 end up with more than twice the retirement savings of people who start at 35, even if the 35-year-old invests more money total. 2 decades of compounding does something to money that no paycheck ever can. And yet, the average American doesn't start seriously investing until 31. That 6-year gap, right in the middle of your 20s, is where most people's financial futures get quietly dismantled. Not because something went wrong, because nothing deliberately went right. Here's the contrast that makes this concrete. 2 people, same job, same $60,000 salary at 23. One starts putting $400 a month into a low-cost index fund. The other does what feels natural, spends it, lives a little, tells himself he'll start when things settle down. By 65, the first person has roughly $1.7 million, assuming a 7% average annual return. The second person, who starts at 33, doing the exact same $400 a month, about $810,000, nearly $1 million difference. Same income, same contribution amount, a single decade of delay. That's what a decade of doing nothing costs, not in guilt, not in regret, but in actual dollars that will never exist. The gap isn't even really about money. It's about what behavioral economists call temporal discounting, the brain's deeply wired preference for immediate rewards over future ones. Researchers at Princeton, including Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, demonstrated that when people think about their future selves, the areas of the brain that activate are the same areas associated with thinking about strangers. Your 45-year-old self isn't you. Neurologically speaking, they're someone else. So every time you choose spending over saving in your 20s, you're not depriving yourself. You're robbing a stranger who shares your name and will one day inherit your consequences. And social media turned that instinct into a full-blown financial crisis. A 2023 study from Credit Karma found that 38% of Americans have gone into debt specifically to keep up with their peers' social media lifestyles, not their actual friends' lives, the curated projection of those lives. Millennials and Gen Z, according to the same research, are the most affected. The average 25-year-old today sees more images of aspirational consumption in a single day than someone in the 1990s would have seen in a year. Every brunch photo, every vacation story, every casual flex of someone's new apartment, it recalibrates your sense of what's normal to spend. And once normal shifts, it almost never shifts back down. Take Marcus. He's 27, works in marketing in Austin, earns $72,000. By every traditional measure, he's doing fine. He's not. He has $900 in savings, $11,000 in credit card debt, a car payment he regrets, and a 401k he has technically opened but contributes nothing to because he keeps meaning to figure it out. He told me he feels fine though, because his friends are in the same situation. The reference group is broken. Nobody around him looks like they're behind because they're all behind together. That's what makes this particular kind of financial danger so hard to see. It doesn't feel like danger. It feels like a social life. Now take someone like Caitlyn. Same age, same income, different city. She shares an apartment with a roommate where her friends are almost all in grad school or early in low-paying careers. They cook dinner most nights. Nobody's booking European vacations on a whim. She maxes her Roth IRA every year, contributes 6% to her 401k to capture the full employer match, and keeps $12,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account as a buffer. She doesn't feel like she's sacrificing anything because her reference group isn't spending. The baseline around her is different. By 40, the gap between Caitlyn and Marcus won't register as a lifestyle difference. It'll register as a freedom difference in the most literal sense of that word. One of them will have options. The other will have memories of a good time they can no longer afford to repeat. The danger of your 20s isn't poverty. Nobody's writing about that. The danger is that you can earn a perfectly decent income, feel like you're living well, and be systematically destroying your future, all while looking completely fine from the outside. That's not the worst part, though. The worst part is what you actually lose isn't just money. It's optionality. The person who hits 38 with real savings can walk away from a bad job, can take a risk on a business, can move cities, take 6 months off, not panic during a market crash. The person who hits 38 with nothing but a nice Instagram account and a car they owe money on can't do any of that. They're locked, and they locked themselves quietly, pleasurably, one good time at a time. If this is already making you rethink something, hit that like button. It tells me to keep making videos like this. Subscribe if you haven't. What comes next is where it gets specific. The psychology behind this isn't weakness, it's architecture. The human brain evolved to care about right now. Threats that are immediate trigger adrenaline. Threats that are 30 years away trigger nothing. No cortisol, no urgency, no action. Retirement isn't scary to a 24-year-old. It's abstract, theoretical, a problem for a version of themselves that doesn't feel real yet. And the financial industry, for most of its history, did nothing to fix that. Banks made money on spending. Advertisers made money on spending. Even employers benefited from it because employees who live paycheck to paycheck are easier to retain and less likely to negotiate aggressively. The structural incentives of your 20s all point toward consumption. The one incentive pointing the other direction, your own future security, has no lobbyist, no billboard, no algorithm pushing it into your feed at 11 p.m. Then there's lifestyle inflation. This is the mechanism that gets almost everyone, including people who understand personal finance at a conceptual level. You get a raise. You upgrade your apartment. You get another raise. You upgrade the car. Economists call it hedonic adaptation. The returns on any new purchase diminish almost immediately, but the spending level becomes your new baseline. You can earn $40,000 more per year than you did 5 years ago and feel exactly as financially pressured because your fixed costs grew with your income, sometimes faster. The lifestyle expands to absorb the raise before the raise even clears your first paycheck at the new rate. And here's the cruel part. The upgrade feels earned. You worked harder, you got paid more, you deserve better. That logic is exactly how the trap closes. The numbers on this are blunt. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey, Americans in the 25 to 34 age bracket spend on average 98 cents out of every dollar they earn. After taxes, rent, car, subscriptions, food, everything, 2 cents left. Not 2% invested, not an emergency fund being built. 2 cents. That is not primarily an income problem for most people in that bracket. It is a priority problem that feels like an income problem because the spending happened gradually, automatically, invisibly, one reasonable seeming decision at a time. Here's what a genuinely different path looks like in real numbers. Two people, both 23, both earning $55,000. Person A invests aggressively through their 20s, 20% of income, roughly $10,000 a year, into a diversified index fund portfolio. They do this for exactly 10 years, from 23 to 33, then stop completely. Not a dollar more. Person B does nothing through their 20s, starts at 33, and invests $10,000 a year for 30 consecutive years, all the way to 63. At retirement, Person A, who stopped investing at 33, has approximately $1.35 million. Person B, who invested 3 times as many years and 3 times as many total dollars, ends up with approximately $1.0 million. The person who stopped at 33 still wins. Time doesn't care how hard you work to catch up. It rewards whoever showed up first, and it punishes the delay in a way that more money later simply cannot fully reverse. What makes your 20s specifically dangerous and not just suboptimal is that the financial decisions calcify into identity. The person who spends their entire 20s in consumption mode doesn't just miss compound interest. They construct a lifestyle that requires a certain income level to maintain. They build spending habits that don't soften with age. They assemble a social circle organized around going out, upgrading things, and signaling normalcy through consumption. Changing all of that at 35 isn't a spreadsheet adjustment. It's an identity renovation. And most people, even people who intellectually understand they need to change, don't actually do it because the version of themselves that needs to change is comfortable enough right now. The reframe that matters is this: your 20s aren't a grace period before real life starts. They're the only decade in your life where small, consistent actions carry disproportionate long-term weight. A $300 a month habit at 24 is worth more than a $1,000 a month habit at 40 in pure compounding terms. You have time, which is the single asset no amount of future income can replace. Warren Buffett made his first investment at 11 years old. He has said explicitly that his biggest financial regret is not starting even earlier. This is a man worth over $140 billion by any conservative estimate. And the thing he would change isn't a trade, not a missed acquisition, not a bad bet. It's the years he didn't start. Most people hear that anecdote and find it charming. The people who actually let it land change something in the next 30 days. The practical steps aren't complicated. At minimum, capture the full employer 401k match if one exists. That's an immediate 50 to 100% return on that money before any market movement. Open a Roth IRA while your income is still low enough to qualify. For 2025, the contribution limit is $7,000, and the tax-free compounding on that money over 4 decades is one of the genuinely rare good deals left in American personal finance. Automate the savings so the money moves before you see it, because willpower applied to money at the end of a month is a losing strategy. Do not wait until you feel financially stable, because that feeling arrives exactly when lifestyle inflation has fully absorbed whatever extra income made you think stability was near. These aren't sacrifices. They're decisions about who gets your money first: your future self, or everyone else's business model. The 20s feel low stakes because the consequences arrive slowly. You don't feel the cost of not investing at 24. You feel it at 54, when the people who were quietly disciplined in their 20s are talking about retiring in 2 years, and you're calculating whether Social Security plus whatever you manage to save actually covers your fixed expenses. The math that felt optional at 24 became mandatory at 54. The only thing that changed is who's doing the calculating and under what kind of pressure. The decade isn't dangerous because bad things happen to you in it. It's dangerous because nothing happens and nothing feels wrong. You live, you spend, you look fine, you feel like you're on track, and the whole time, the gap between where you are and where you could be is widening in complete silence. By the time that silence becomes audible, the compounding you didn't do can't be undone. If you want to go deeper, watch our video on why the Roth IRA is still the most underused account for people under 35, and then watch the one on how lifestyle inflation quietly destroys high earners. Both linked. Don't skip the second one.